Starting a business in South Africa. The historical statistics of the country have proven that the country has potential to be a superpower in Africa. The GDP of South Africa has been growing since 1980, and the only time it went down was in 2009, due to the 2008 to 2009 market crash. Mostly the economy has been rising, and the country has been very successful in growing their GDP every year, sometimes even by 5%. Yet the only negative factor that comes into play is the unemployment, which rose to 27.5%, and the government debt, which became 52.7% in 2017. The economy in South Africa is now mostly driven by the export of gold, platinum, diamonds, and other goods. The country only contributes 5% of employment into the agriculture and food processing area. That's due to the infertility of the land or the lack of water near potential agricultural land. Yet that doesn't stop the South African people. And South Africa is the largest producer of chicory roots, 4th in the world, grapefruits, 5th in the world, cereals, 5th in the world, and many more. The country is also a very popular tourism destination. In 2012 alone, there were around 9.2 million international arrivals for business and touristic means. This contributes to around 10.3% jobs in the whole country.
Starting a business in South Africa. If you would like to start a company in South Africa, you would first have to get in contact with the Trade and Industry Department of the South African Embassy in Brussels. It is their responsibility to promote Belgian businesses in South Africa. Then, based on what you want to do, for example, if a Belgian company will want to open a business in South Africa, they would have to contact the One-Stop Shop. The One-Stop Shop sits in Investment South Africa. Investment South Africa is an agency of the DTI, the Department of Trade and Industry, which was set up specifically to facilitate and simplify the investments process. An investor going into a foreign country usually finds it a very daunting task. They have to deal with several government departments and national departments. Depending on where you are planning on building your company, you will have to deal with the provincial government. For example, in Johannesburg, you'd have to deal with the national government, the DTI, then the provincial DTI, and the city's government. You also have the South African Revenue Services, the Tax Registration Requirements Department, the Customs Department and officials, the Intellectual Property Office, where you register your company, is also there, and the Health Department.
Why invest in South Africa? South Africa has one of the most advanced telecommunication industries in the continent. The costs have decreased as the use of telecommunications have increased. South Africa have ranked 20th in the world for installed solar energy in 2016. The main resources used for electricity are 77% coal, fuel, gas, and oil. South Africa has more than 200,000 university graduates per year. The students graduate mainly in science, engineering, and technology, followed by business management. There are many reasons to invest in South Africa, and here are some examples. 1. A number of global business process outsourcing operations, also known as BPO, are located in the country. The BPO industry is a big GDP contributor. It also provides employment to approximately 215,000 people in the country. 2. Quality infrastructure and efficient logistics. With the continued investment in infrastructure, South Africa is positioned as a key global hub and an attractive gateway into the rest of the continent, creating new and sustainable jobs in the process and reducing environmental impacts. 3. Largest presence of multinationals in Africa. There are more than 118 Fortune Global 500 companies present in South Africa. 4. The manufacturing hub. The manufacturing hub contributes 12% to the Country's GDP. That's a lot lower than it has been in the 80s and 90s, but it's growing again. There are a lot of jobs available in this sector. 5. Tech hubs. The Global Innovation Index ranks South Africa number 1 in innovation in Africa. Their intellectual property rights protection is regarded as the second best in Africa. South Africa is a growing ecosystem which is already getting the attention of investors. In the past 5 years, the IT sector has grown at a rate of 22%. 6. Political and macroeconomic stability. South Africa is a young, stable democracy dominated by one political party, which favorably compares to other emerging markets in terms of overall cost of doing business. 7. Africa's leading financial hub. With the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, the largest stock exchange by market capitalization in the continent, South Africa is also a good country to invest in because of the affordable office space. South Africa offers highly competitive commercial property rates. 8. Affordable labor. In 2019, South Africa introduced a minimum wage of 20 rand an hour, keeping its labor costs globally competitive. And finally, 9. The green economy. Thanks to the climate conditions, South Africa has one of the highest potentials for solar and wind energy. In 2016, South Africa generated 111 million tons of waste, of which 75% was landfilled and 25% was used or recycled.
Sectors to invest in South Africa. South Africa is moving more towards becoming a knowledge-based economy, with greater focus on technology, e-commerce, and financial and other services. Here are some sectors to look at investing in. Number 1. Mining and mineral sector. Mining in South Africa employs over 460,000 people and still has a great future ahead. South Africa is estimated to have the world's 5th largest mining sector in terms of gross domestic product value. The country also has some of the best primary processing facilities for gold, platinum, carbon steel, stainless steel, and aluminium. The biggest attraction for investors would be technology. With an increase in technology in the mining sector, would help make the cost per kilogram produced could be reduced drastically, and therefore mining companies will make a larger profit and will get a good return for their investments. Number 2. Financial sector. South Africa's financial sector boasts dozens of domestic and foreign institutions providing a full range of services, including commercial, retail and merchant banking, mortgage lending, and insurance and investments. The country's banking sector, when compared to industrialized countries, is very favorable. Over the past decade, many foreign banks and investment institutions have set up operations in South Africa. In South Africa, there are many electronic banking facilities with a nationwide network of ATMs and internet banking facilities available. Third, energy and renewable energy sector. South Africa's energy is supplied by one company, Eskom. South Africa has had many energy problems over the past few years, where the country has had to initiate load shedding, which is where certain areas in the country are without power for a certain amount of time. With the right investments, the country can have huge beneficial advantages, especially because the country is rich in resources such as sunlight, wind, rain, and waves from the oceans. Fourth, transportation sector. South Africa's transport and communication is a very big contributor to the country's GDP and is a sector that also has a lot of room for improvement. In South Africa, the public transport is mainly provided by taxis, buses, and public options like Uber. The country does not have efficient tram or train systems, and is the perfect reason for investors to invest into the transport sector in South Africa. Fifth, health sector. South Africa's healthcare system is one that is known for being expensive and unsustainable, and when it comes to the governmental healthcare provided, it is not up to the standards that it should be. The country also produces a large amount of skilled doctors, but a lot of them move to other countries for many different reasons. The government has teamed up with the International Development Partner to create a system that is accessible for all people in the country and offers better public healthcare services. This system will also help keep more of the skilled doctors in South Africa so that together the health sector can grow and help solve many of the health problems that South Africa face. Sixth, travel and tourism sector. The tourism sector in South Africa employs more people than the mining, communication services, automotive manufacturing, and chemicals manufacturing sectors. The three top provinces visited in 2016-2017 were Gauteng with 4.3 million visitors, Western Cape with 1.5 million visitors, and Limpopo with 1.4 million visitors. These are all great figures for a country where travel and tourism is a great sector to invest in. 7. Agricultural sector. South Africa is very reliant on the agricultural sector, and it is vitally important for the country. The agricultural sector has an estimated 8.5 million people that are directly or indirectly dependent on the agriculture for their employment and income. South Africa's agricultural activities range from intensive crop production and mixed farming in winter rainfall and high summer rainfall areas. The farming also ranges from cattle ranching in the bushveld and sheep farming in the dry areas. South Africa produces many different products due to the different areas in the country having very different climates. With the diversity in the produce, it allows the country to have enough produce to export and sell locally. This is a great attraction for investors.
Our advice to people that want to do business in South Africa. With patience comes greatness. This will be something we would like you to remember when doing business in South Africa. Try to remember that as beautiful as it is, and as industrialized as it may look, South Africa still has a lot of changes to make. These changes can happen very rapidly. South Africa is the home to a lot of different industries, and we believe that in 10 years from now, these industries will have attracted a lot of different companies all over the world, which will obviously increase entrepreneurship in South Africa, but also the amount of investors, startups, etc. And that is why we would like to invite you to come and do business now, because by then the prices will have increased and it will simply be harder to come and do business in South Africa. So come.